Hello, welcome back to Snark and Spark. My name is Emily, and today, because I don't have a lot of stitchy stuff to share with you, I thought I would do one of my Meet My Pets. Now, this guy you've probably seen the most out of all of my pets. This is Washington the cat. He's hanging out with me. Got eye boogies. I'll lift him up again, but he's just chilling with me right now. So I just got home from work. I haven't even changed out of my work clothes. I just wanted to sit down and do this, especially because he came to greet me at the door. Washington is our first pet. He is our oldest pet, and he is also toothless. So let's talk about Washington. So we adopted Washington in December of 2016. So we have had him now for 6 years. He's a good boy. We had just moved to Pennsylvania in October of 2016. My husband had gotten promoted. We were just boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. That's a whole other story. But we were living in a little townhouse apartment in Pennsylvania, York, Pennsylvania specifically. And we decided that a couple months into living there, we had talked to our landlord. They said we could get one animal, specifically, we could get a cat. So we decided we're gonna get a cat. Caden was 4 at the time. So he had just turned 4, right, in October. So we essentially had his birthday and then moved. He was 4 years old. We were living there. We'd been there just a couple months, and we were like, we need a pet. We need a cat. So we started looking at the different animal shelters there. We eventually went to the Humane Society. We ended up actually going to the York SPCA and started looking. They were actually doing I hate to think of it as a deal, but they were doing kind of a buy one, get one cat, essentially. A buy one, get one, like half off kind of thing. They had a lot of cats. Unfortunately, we could only get one. We did double check with the landlord if we could get 2 once we found out that they were doing this. Look at him. They were doing this like special promotion where if you adopted one cat, they would like waive the adoption fees for the second cat kind of thing. And so we double checked with them, and unfortunately they told us no, we could only have the one. So if not for that landlord, we would have 2 cats. But because, and I say that because he actually had a litter mate with him at the shelter. We don't think it was actually from his actual litter, like a sibling, a true sibling, but it was the cat he was sharing a space with at the shelter, at the kennel. He was sharing a quarters with a beautiful girl. She was a black and white cat that reminded me so much of my childhood cat. And I loved her. I really wanted her. I'm glad we got this one, ultimately. So we met him, right? We picked a couple cats. They let us meet the cats. They brought both of them in at the same time, brought him and the girl. And she immediately came to me. She was very sweet and interested in me, but did not want anything to do with Caden or Bryant. Nothing at all. Versus this guy here, no hesitation. And you have to remember, Caden was 4 years old, newly 4. So still kind of in that like toddlery stage of life kind of thing. Gosh. Yeah, 4 years old. And so little bitty, very excitable. And but he'd been around cats. He had lived with a cat before. So we weren't worried about getting a cat, but we knew we had to get a cat that was either young or was okay with him. So really the cat who went to Caden that was the determining factor. So this guy right here, no shyness at all, runs right up to Caden and Bryant, rubbing all over them, begging for attention, wanting what he's doing to me right now, which is face rubs and scritches and just right up to them. I have photos of the day we met Washington and he was with Caden and Bryant. Not me. He actually did not come to me at all. I think he kind of breezed past me, gave me a sniff, but then was very interested in the boys. So ultimately, we went with him because as much as I wanted the girl, I can concede that obviously the one that does better with my child is the cat we should get. So we ended up adopting him on December 22nd of 2016, which is also the same day as my sister's birthday, which is how I remember. His gotcha day was December 22nd, and we took him home, and he's been with us ever since. So fun thing about Washington, when we adopted him, they told us that they thought he was about 2 or 3. We moved here to Iowa about 1.5 years later. Now I'm covered in cat hair. About 1.5 years later. And when we moved here and took him to the vet actually was like, no, I think he's younger than that. Because we're like, okay, so he's like 3 or 4 now. And the vet was like, no, I really think he's younger. So we think he was probably closer to 2 when we actually got him, not 3 like they said. So we don't know his exact age, but that's okay. Suffice to say, he's become an older man now. So if he was 2, then he's 8. Kimby's at the door. She wants in. But we got him. His front canine was chipped, and they told us not to worry about it. Fast forward, we get here. We notice he's got some dental issues. Originally they thought that when his tooth had originally been like cracked, that an infection had gotten in there and had just laid dormant in his gums and slowly infected his teeth. Turns out actually the reason why my cat is toothless is because he has this genetic condition that is an autoimmune disease that causes their gums to start to reabsorb the roots of their teeth. It is weird. I've never heard of this before, but my poor cat has it, so he had one procedure a couple years ago. He just had his other one. I just talked about it, but he's now completely toothless because he has an autoimmune disease that was destroying his teeth anyways. He's much happier now. He's very playful now. As you could see before, he loves face rubs. He loves having his face massaged and rubbed, very soft and cuddly. Since getting him though, he has definitely become my cat. He has a love-hate relationship with Bryant, and I 100% believe it's because Bryant torments this poor cat. And I mean that in the most joking way, where Bryant will play with him and they will bat at each other, and he will get his toys and he will mess with the cat, right? Like a child. So Washington will immediately start playing with Bryant and start batting at Bryant just constantly, versus I've always been very cuddly with him. I've always picked him up. I've always been the one that will snuggle him and hold him. And he used to lay on my lap. Did not matter, would lay in my lap constantly. He still does, but not as much now. He's currently trying to chew on some Christmas lights because with the dogs, and he is getting older, but he still does find me. He still does like to curl up next to me. He sleeps right here next to my head most nights. But he is our boy. He is our firstborn. But why is he named Washington, right? Why is Washington the cat Washington the cat? When we adopted him, his name was Lucas at the shelter, and they asked, do you want to change his name? And we said, yes, we planned on changing his name. And they were like, well, we need to know what it is. And we went, okay. And we looked at Caden and we asked Caden, what do you want to name him? Fully expecting, standard cat names. We were waiting because he's white and orange. We were waiting for him to call him Orangey. We were waiting for him to call him just Kitty. Like, you know, we were waiting for standard little kid names for cats. Even like George, because at the time, Caden was obsessed with Curious George. Monkeys have always been his thing, but he was very obsessed with Curious George. And we're like waiting for it, right? Like we were like, he's gonna say this cat's name is George and we're gonna have a cat named George. No, he goes, Washington. And we were like, what? And he's Washington. And so we went, okay. And we told him that that's what our cat's name is. So we have Washington the cat. And when we asked him about it later, it is a Curious George thing. And he was like, because Curious George learned about George Washington. And we were like, okay. So Washington the cat, named by our son, but it set off this whole precedent. And so this precedent of naming our cats after presidents, our pets after presidents, and which is now also why we have Eisenhower and Kennedy, the dogs. But that was my pet. That was my pet of the day. Sorry. I'm going to let my dogs in. I'm going to go change out of my work clothes, eat some lunch, and try and get some stitching in before I have to go pick Caden up from school. So that's all I have other than today's Do Good December. For December 6th, it is to leave a kind note or message for someone else to find. And I love that. I think that is a brilliant thing to do. It is one of my favorite things to do. I have left notes before in library books and in things like that, just for the next person to find. And if I had seen it, I should have checked when I was at work, because if I had checked it earlier this morning, I would have done it right then and there. I would have written a note on a sticky note and stuck it in one of the library books I was working on and put it on the cart to go out. But I missed it. So instead, I will do something else here, and I will write a note anyways. I might take it to work and stick it in a book when I go back to work, but I will still write a note. That's all I've got. I hope you guys are enjoying Flossmas. Check out everyone else. I will see you again tomorrow. In the meantime, do some good.